Please comment where you are watching in the world. I knew the night had taken a left turn the second she asked if I had documentation. That was the word she used, like we were closing on a condo instead of sharing a table under some fairy lights. Her name was Zara, and the rooftop she picked was one of those places that pretends not to care that it's expensive. Potted citrus trees, lanterns that look like they were bought in bulk for a wedding. The menu said things like seasonal bitter greens, and the cocktails were named after constellations. I got there early and took a stool at the far end of the bar where the wind cut the heat. The bartender, a woman with a silver streak in her bun and a nose ring, Mira, set down water without asking. "You meeting someone?" she said, not unkindly. "Yeah," I said, checking my phone. 8:04 p.m., Zara, elevators slow. "Be there in 2. 8:05 p.m., Jonah, best friend good luck, investor man. If she asks for crypto, run." Zara arrived like she'd already been bored by 5 other nights just like this. Emerald dress, sharp bob, little gold hoops. She hugged me with one arm, kept the other hand on her phone, and slid into the seat opposite like the chair was lucky to hold her. "Sorry, elevators," she said, eyes already scanning the room the way people do when they're used to being looked at. At first, it was fine. Easy even. She had a smooth voice and opinions about everything. City planning, streaming shows, the fact that cilantro is a scam. She didn't ask many questions, but I told myself first dates are like tennis warm-ups, just getting the arm loose. When the server came, she didn't glance at prices and ordered the most photogenic drink on the page, some lavender thing that arrived smoking like a tiny storm cloud. "So what do you do?" she asked mid-scroll. "I'm a product designer for a logistics app," I said. "Mostly boring behind-the-scenes stuff that keeps things from breaking." She said, like she'd just sampled a soup and wasn't sure. "So comfortable." "Comfortable?" "Like salary comfortable," she said, finally putting her phone down. "Because, I'm just going to be honest, I don't date men who aren't. It wastes time." I laughed. Not a big one. Just a "you're teasing me, right?" laugh. She didn't laugh back. "What's comfortable mean to you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. She leaned in, elbows on the table, perfume like pepper and flowers. "6 figures. In your hand, not in vibes." I thought of 3 possible replies at once, and none of them formed words. She saved me the effort. "Do you have a recent pay slip on you?" she said. "Even a PDF?" For half a second, I thought I misheard. Then she added, "You can redact the address." "I'm not psycho." Mira appeared with our drinks at exactly the wrong moment and exactly the right one. Her eyes flicked between our faces, a bartender's weather sense. She set the glasses down and slid me a quick look that read like a subtitle. "You okay?" "I don't carry HR files to bars," I said, trying to smile. "But I can tell you what I make." Zara's mouth curled. "People round up," she said. "Screenshots don't." A breeze pushed the lanterns. Someone at a nearby table was telling a loud story about a yacht. Zara twisted her straw and explained, almost patiently, like a teacher going over rules on the first day, that she didn't want a project. She wanted a partner who could provide the life she planned. She said the word provide without blinking. She said planned like a verdict. 8:21 p.m., Jonah, you alive? 8:21 p.m., me. She wants my W-2. 8:22 p.m., Jonah, BRO abort. I could have made a joke and walked. I could have gone petty and pulled up an old bank app. Instead, some stubborn part of me got curious. "Hypothetical," I said. "Guy doesn't hit your number. Then what?" "Then I thank him for dinner, wish him well, and don't text back," she said, so matter-of-fact it felt like reading a weather report. "I don't negotiate with math." Our food came. She barely touched hers. She was busy telling me about her ex, Armin, who understood investments and would buy 2 of whatever she admired. One in the moment, one to keep boxed for value. She said it without irony. Every few minutes her phone buzzed, and she'd tilt it under the table. Once, when the server set the check down on the corner in that subtle server way, Zara reached for her phone again, lifted it, and took a photo of the leather folio and the edge of my card alongside the city skyline. "What?" I started. "It's for my close friends," she said. "Calm down." I blur. "Blur what?" "My name. My numbers." "Your aura," she said deadpan, then smiled. "Relax. It's content." Mira appeared again, this time with the half-smile that says she's seen this episode. "Everything tasting okay?" "It's good," I said. Mira hesitated like she wanted to say more, then tucked a paper under my water glass and disappeared. I thumbed it open. It was the printed back of an old inventory sheet. On the white space she'd scribbled, "Third this week who does the money test." "You don't know proof." Zara was still talking, this time about a private group chat where her friends swapped screens when men sent provider energy. She laughed about a story of some guy in a suit who'd claimed CFO and turned out financially creative at best. She said that like it was a cautionary fairy tale and took another smoke and lavender sip. I tried to steer us anywhere else. Hobbies, neighborhoods, that one weird mural everyone photographs and pretends they found. She volleyed everything back to money, like she'd put a magnet in the middle of the table. "Travel's different when you fly lie flats," she said. "You can't ask me to go back to knees to seat." She named islands like I named grocery stores. She said legacy pieces with reverence. She said retire by 38, like a promise. Halfway through her monologue, she tilted her head. "You're quiet," she said. "That means you're either broke or offended. Or bored," I said as gently as I could. "We don't know each other yet. You haven't asked me one thing that isn't about numbers." "I asked your job," she said. "That's two birds." The check sat there like a dare. I slid my card in because I was raised on autopilot chivalry, and because I wanted the night to end before she asked me to log into my payroll portal. The server took it. Zara watched the process like an exam. "This is part of the test, too," she said, confirming what I'd already suspected. "First impressions, first responsibilities. You keep a rubric?" "I keep standards," she said, turning her phone so I could see a notes app list titled Filters. 6 figs, generous, travel-capable, brand-literate, decisive. There were check boxes. Some were already ticked. Next to decisive, she had typed pending. She didn't seem embarrassed to show me. If anything, she looked proud. The folio returned. Before I could pick up the pen, she leaned in again, blocking my hand with 2 fingers and a smile. "Hold," she said. She lifted her phone for a quick burst photo. My card, the pen, the total line. "Angles," she added, and let me finish. When I stood, Mira caught my eye. "Hey," she said low. "You good?" "Yeah," I lied. "Rooftops are great for exits," she said, nodding at the elevator. "But stairs are quicker." Zara was already walking toward the photo wall, where people take mirrored selfies with the skyline behind them. "Come on," she said, not looking back, lights perfect. We stood in front of mercury glass while she arranged her hair. She didn't ask me into the frame. She didn't need me there at all. I watched her shoot 5 takes, adjust the crop, then black bar my reflection to a smudge. She posted to the green circle. I heard it vibrate on a dozen hidden phones at once. In the elevator down, she said, "So are we aligned?" "On what?" "I'm being serious," she said. "I don't have time to sample." I thought about the note under my water glass. I thought about the way she never asked my last name, but wanted my line items. I thought about the word provide, how heavy it felt when she dropped it between us, like a weight she expected me to pick up. "I think you'll find what you're looking for," I said. "That's a no," she said, not mad, just sorting the trash from the keep. "Good luck with your, what was it, logistics?" She said the last word like a dull flavor, coconut water left open overnight. Outside, the night felt 10 degrees cooler. I walked to the pay station and fumbled the ticket. My phone buzzed again. 9:17 p.m., Jonah. Still alive? 9:18 p.m., me. She took a photo of the check. 9:18 p.m., Jonah. Send me a pic of your freedom. I texted back a blurry shot of the street, then put the phone in my pocket and just stood there. Across the way, I could see Zara's reflection again, this time in the glass of a black SUV, as she took one last selfie with the city in the paint. The driver opened the door for her. She didn't look at him. She didn't look at me. The next morning a message pinged at 7:02 a.m., time-stamped like an invoice. "Zara, thanks for last night. You're nice. I need someone who can keep up. No hard feelings. Sparkles." I typed, "No worries. Good luck," then deleted it and sent nothing. I opened my banking app to check the damage out of habit. The total wasn't what stuck. It was the tiny, ridiculous urge I felt to screenshot the screen, as if proof mattered to anyone who wasn't there. Later, over coffee, I told Myra's note to a friend, and he laughed so hard he choked. "Third this week," he said. "Bro, what is this, the salary Olympics?" I laughed too, but under the laugh was something flatter, like the feeling you get when you realize you were never a person in a story, just a prop that matched the decor. Since then, when people talk about red flags, I don't say much. I just check if I'm being asked to show a receipt for being human. If the answer is yes, I tip the bartender, take the stairs, and save my screenshots for sunsets. I didn't notice the first red flag until I picked up my fork and Colin flinched. So small a movement I might have missed it if the midday light hadn't flashed off the rim of his water glass. It was a Tuesday lunch at Trattoria Sorella, the kind of Italian place that insists on paper menus and red-tiled floors, even at noon. Tables close enough that you could borrow a napkin from your neighbor without standing. Vines painted on the walls. Old crooner music under the chatter. He'd chosen the spot, and he'd chosen the booth, back straight, blazer still on despite the heat like posture was a religion. I set my phone face down. He aligned his with the edge of the table, so precisely it looked measured. "Good to finally meet you," he said, giving me one of those smiles that doesn't show teeth. "I like a restaurant where things are done properly." I thought he meant fresh pasta, not what came next. We ordered quickly. House salad to share, cacio e pepe for me, veal Milanese for him, a carafe of sparkling water because he said still was lazy. The server, Lucia, wrote with a pencil tucked into a bun that looked impervious to gravity. She winked at me when the pencil snapped, and she kept writing with the nub. Small talk bobbed along. He was in corporate advisory, which sounded like a job you buy a blazer for. I told him I did event design, and he asked if that meant balloons and confetti, then laughed like we were already old friends. He was taller than in his photos and careful with his hands when he spoke, palms facing down like he could pat the air into obedience. The salad arrived. I reached for my fork. The flinch. "You're using the American grip," he said gently, as if pointing out I'd smudged mascara. "Not wrong per se, but provincial." "Provincial," I repeated, letting the words sit between us like an extra plate. "Continental is better," he went on. Knife in the right hand, fork in the left, tines down. Wrist low. Non-dominant hand, never leaves the table. It telegraphs sophistication. I stared at the arugula like it had betrayed me. "I'm telegraphing hunger," I said, and took a bite, tines up, barbarian that I am. He watched. Actually watched. Not at my face, at my hands. "See how your index finger is floating? That's a tell," he murmured. "In Paris they'd know instantly." "Know what?" Lucia asked, appearing with bread and a grin. "That she hasn't practiced," he said. Lucia's grin shifted into something else. She set the bread down and placed a spare paper menu beside my plate. "You'll want this," she said to me in a low voice. "For notes." I smiled because I thought she was kidding. Then I realized she wasn't. Colin cleared his throat. "I'm not teasing. It's endearing. We can fix it. We. Everyone can improve," he said, a teacher again. "I host formal dinners for clients. Expectations matter." He angled the bread basket to show me the correct taking piece, from the side, not the top. "I used to coach an ex on basics," he added, almost fond. "Before the firm's gala." Lucia's pencil scratched on a distant pad. The couple in the next booth, two women in medical scrubs sharing a pizza, had the decency to keep their eyes on their crusts. I looked down at the menu by my plate. On a whim, I uncapped the pen from my bag and wrote in the margin, "Rules, according to C." Knife right, fork left, tines down. Floating finger equals provincial. Bread from the side, not the top. Still water equals lazy? LOL. He watched me write and smiled like I was a quick study. The pasta arrived, perfectly glossy, pepper flecks like static. I twirled lightly against the plate, the way you do when you're trying not to fling noodles at your shirt. "No spoon," he said, softly horrified. "If you must twirl, it's against the plate." But ideally, he lifted his own fork, tines down, and sawed 3 strands with his knife like he was trimming bonsai. Bite-sized. Continental. Lucia passed by. "You're doing great," she said to me, and then to him. "You want cheese?" "Pecorino," he said. "Counterclockwise, please." I thought he was kidding again. He was not. He returned to lecture mode as if a switch had been flipped. It wasn't mean. That almost made it worse. He was earnest, intent on elevating me like a coach who sees potential and a deadline. "Your elbows," he said, and touched the table with a single finger. "Never off the cloth. It signals flightiness. Now resting position for utensils while you talk, like this." He arranged his knife and fork on his plate at a neat inverted V. Finished position, like this. He placed them parallel at 4 o'clock. Servers read these cues. It's a language. "I speak napkin," I said. "It says help." He laughed, delighted. "You're funny. This will be fun." I wrote in the margin. 5. Pecorino counterclockwise. 6. Resting equals V. Finished equals 4 o'clock. 7. Jokes bounce off. He asked about my work again, but only as a pathway back to his premise. Imagine you book a client dinner, he said, slicing his veal with surgical attention. You'd want to be confident at the table, yes? Imagine being proud of your form. Proud of my form, I echoed, watching a noodle slide down my fork like a tiny defeated flag. The couple in scrubs clinked their glasses. One of them leaned subtly toward me. You're fine, she mouthed, then pretended to sneeze when he turned. Colin kept grating. Not formally, but numbers slipped out like he didn't notice. That bite was AB-, he said, almost affectionate. Recoverable. Watch the over-rotation. You're over-committing. I've never been told my fork is dramatic. It's all impression, he said, tapping his temple. Manhattan, Milan, Dubai, these things travel. At some point, uninvited, my phone buzzed. Hannah, how's lunch? If he wears loafers with tassels, leave. I sent a bathroom photo of the tiles back and typed. He's grating my elbows. 3 dots appeared. Run, she wrote then, but pack the bread. Colin dabbed at his mouth. I'll send you a PDF, he said, as if that were a dessert. There's a classic primer, the Silver Fork Manual. Comprehensive. My team swears by my workshop. He was already composing an email subject line in his head. I could tell. Lucia arrived with the check envelope balanced atop a dessert menu. Tiramisu, she asked me. I shouldn't, I began. We'll share, Colin said. Spoon technique is crucial. So many women scoop. It's rustic. Lucia set the dessert down and, as she did, slipped a folded ticket stub under the corner of my paper menu. When she left, I opened it with the caution of a schoolgirl stealing a note. In tidy block letters, you don't need fixing. L. Something unclenched in me. I looked at my margin notes, at his precise hands, at the way he waited for my reaction, as if I were a mirror. You know what's funny? I said, setting my fork deliberately, rebelliously, tines up. I like rustic. He blinked, not understanding whether that was a joke he was supposed to appreciate. Well, you won't at Cipriani, he said finally. And if this goes anywhere, there will be places like that. If this goes anywhere, I repeated, tasting each word the way he tasted rules. We finished the tiramisu. He coached my spoon like a golf pro. Don't dip, glide, let surface tension do the work. And I performed a stubborn scoop just to hear the soft gasp he couldn't hide. When the check came, he reached for it with the same decisive movement he'd used to correct my hands. This is part of leading, he said, sliding his card in. In public, decisions are masculine. What are they in private? I asked. Effortless, he said, and his smile returned, practiced and neat. Outside, sun bounced off parked cars and a delivery truck beeped in reverse. He offered to walk me to my car. I told him I had an errand. It wasn't a lie. I needed to buy a pen that wasn't for writing down other people's rules. He hugged me with the care of someone who doesn't like wrinkles. We'll make a reservation somewhere more formal next time, he said, so you can practice under pressure. Next time, I said noncommittal. The cafe looked like a greenhouse that had learned to make cappuccinos. Ferns hung from hooks, potos trailed across shelves, and there was a cactus on every table like a tiny judge. Elliot walked in wearing a slate sweater despite the heat and hugged me with both arms, earnest and warm. I'm Leah. We'd had one easy drink and one bowling night where he pretended the gutter balls were performance art. This was date 3. Low stakes, low lights, cinnamon in the air. For 30 minutes, it was nice. He told a story about biking the canal path. I told one about a florist who had rude messages in bouquets by using the language of flowers. He laughed. The barista, Nico, kept refilling the water carafe and asking if we wanted pastry encouragement. Normal. Then Elliot set his cup down very carefully, like the next thing needed ceremony. I'd like to talk about the serious stuff, he said, folding his hands. Okay, I said, thinking, families moving someday, the big shoe topics. He nodded, took out his phone, and opened a notes app titled Life Plan. He angled the screen between us. I find clarity romantic, he said. So, some expectations. He spoke and I heard it as minutes. I don't know why. Maybe because it sounded like a meeting I hadn't scheduled. Meeting minutes. Project, our future. Date time, Tuesday, 7:38 p.m. Attendees, Elliot, presenter, Leah, listener, Nico, witness via espresso. Agenda, roles, non-negotiables, implementation timeline. Elliot opens. I'm traditional. When I marry, my wife won't work. She'll be home with the kids. That stability is important. Leah notes. First I've heard the word marry. Elliot elaborates, 3 kids minimum. No daycare. I don't want strangers raising my children. Action item, assigned to Leah. Consider resignation by year 1. Barista Nico passes with a tray, grimace detected. Elliot continues, I will provide. I'm good at providing. In return, I expect the household to run. Schedules. Healthy meals. A welcoming home. It's not hard if you're organized. Leah thinks, not hard, said the man who has never peeled a toddler off a doorway. Elliot shares screen. Sample weekly rota. Laundry M/W/F. Meal prep Sue/2/TH. School drop-offs daily. Husband decompression window 6:15 to 6:45 p.m. Leah asks, what if your wife likes her job? Elliot, she'll like our family more. It's priorities. Leah asks follow-up, what if she likes both? Elliot, that's how kids get lost in the shuffle. Nico refills water, stage whisper to Leah. We also sell pastries for when people say wild things. Somewhere in there, my latte cooled to a film. Elliot wasn't angry or evangelical. He was calm, almost gentle, like the kindest HR rep explaining a layoff. That steadiness made it creepier. It meant he couldn't imagine the shape of a life that wasn't his. He scrolled further. I've done sample budgets, he said, tapping numbers. On 1 income, with a modest house in Eastfield, it's tight but doable. If you cut coffees, no offense, and lunches out, you'd be amazed. I plan weddings, I said, and museum galas. I like my job. He smiled. You like field trips and homemade bread. Those don't pay Social Security, I said. He chuckled like I'd made a cute mistake. You won't need that. I have a retirement plan. We'll be fine. He listed values, respect, faith, routine, family dinners, twinkle lights in the yard. He said, I want the mother of my kids to be present. And the word present landed like a verdict on every woman who'd ever wanted an hour alone. Elliot, I said carefully, do you want a partner or a role filled? A partner fills a role, he said, as if that solved math. Nico dropped a small plate between us without comment. 2 cinnamon knots, warm, sugar melting into the glaze. On the paper receipt under the plate, he'd scrawled in pencil, you're allowed to want things. N. I tore a piece of pastry and let the sugar sting my tongue. I can't be the only adult who's allowed to change her mind in your plan, I said. I can't be the only one who gives up air. He looked genuinely puzzled. You'd be gaining a family. I'd be losing myself, I said, and my voice surprised me with how steady it was. He blinked, recalibrating, like a GPS when you take an exit it didn't suggest. So you're opposed? I'm opposed to being a project, I said, and to being assigned. Silence, then the faint hiss of milk steaming, the fern leaves whispering lightly in the ceiling fans. Elliot nodded once, a manager closing a file. I appreciate the clarity, he said. I don't want to waste your time. Or mine, I said, and we both meant different kinds of time. He stood, pushed in his chair neatly, and left with a polite, disappointed smile you'd give a contractor who bid too high. When the bell stopped chiming, Nico slid over, wiped a dry ring from the table, and tapped the receipt again. You okay? He asked. I will be, I said. On my walk home, I opened my own notes app and titled a blank page life plan mine. First bullet, work I love. Second, kids maybe someday if we both want them and if the plan leaves room for both our names. Third, cinnamon knots when the meeting turns into a meeting. I should have known when Sloane walked in carrying a leather folio instead of a purse. We were meeting at Beacon Burger, the kind of spot with squeaky vinyl booths and a chalkboard that still bragged about Best Fries 2017. I'd arrived early, grabbed the corner booth under the neon milkshake sign, and texted my friend a safe word just in case. He replied with a thumbs up and a hot dog emoji, which in hindsight feels prophetic. Sloane slid into the booth like a lawyer entering a deposition, efficient, unsmiling, all motion and no waste. She was striking in that composed way, pale blazer, hair pinned with 2 gold clips, nails the shade of new lipstick. You must be Nate, she said, setting the folio between us. Good to meet in person. We did the opening pleasantries, where we grew up, who refuses to let go of a group chat, until the server dropped off our sodas and shuffled away. Sloane tapped the folio once, like knocking on a door. So, she said, I like clarity. Me too, I said, thinking she meant communication styles and daylight saving time opinions. She opened the folio. Inside was a stapled stack of paper with a plastic cover, the title centered in a serif font. Relational Expectation Agreement, REA. Between Sloan redacted, girlfriend, and __________, boyfriend. I laughed, a small sound that didn't survive the space between us. Sloan didn't laugh. She clicked a pen and slid the packet across. It's simple. People break up because expectations are unwritten. I write mine. Skim while we wait. The top page had numbered sections, bold headers, and underlines in exactly the places you'd expect underlines. It looked like a rental lease mated with a vision board. A faint circle on the corner suggested a notary stamp had once pressed there. 1. Financial courtesies. 1.1 Boyfriend agrees to cover all date-adjacent expenses, meals, tickets, transportation, incidentals. 1.2 Exceptions. Girlfriend's birthday, see Section 6.2, anniversaries, see Section 6.3, and just because days, see Section 6.4. 1.3 Failure to perform constitutes negligence. Negligence? I mouthed. Sloan nodded, like a teacher pleased I'd found a vocab word. 2. Communication cadence. 2.1 Morning text, GM smiling face with smiling eyes, by 9 a.m. 2.2 Evening text, GN sleeping face, by 10:30 p.m. 2.3 Daily check-ins permitted to be combined with above in exigent circumstances. 2.4 Missed day equals warning. I looked up. What's exigent? Like if your grandma dies, she said matter of fact. But you still text at the funeral. Right? I said and turned a page. The section numbers hopped from 3 to 5. A faint rectangle of whiteout haunted the margin. My eyes lingered and Sloan pulled her water closer, as if covering a scar. 5. Social respect. 5.1 Girlfriend's social life is not subject to interrogation. 5.2 Boyfriend will not ask who/where/how late unless safety is implicated. 5.3 Jealousy is not a love language. Fair enough, I thought, before reading 5.4. Boyfriend will not surprise drop by without a 24-hour notice. Our burgers arrived. Sloan shifted the stack to the salt and pepper zone and folded her napkin with a surgeon's precision. I took a bite and immediately regretted it. Grease and legalese don't pair well. Keep going, she said, chewing like someone who counts. I flipped to 7. Gifting. 7.1 Gift obligations include birthdays, anniversary, Valentine's Day, and light celebratory tokens on promotion days. 7.2 Gifts must be meaningful and non-perfunctory. 7.3 Failure to provide gifts will be viewed as negligence. See Section 1.3. Is there a rubric for meaningful? I asked. There are Pinterest boards, she said. I can share. A shadow fell over the table. The cashier, a guy with a name tag that read Lonnie, leaned on the divider. Y'all need extra ranch? He asked, then glanced down and clocked the title page. Something like recognition passed over his face. Good, he mouthed to me when Sloan looked away. I lifted my soda. He gave a tiny nod, the international sign for I see it too, and drifted back toward the register. I turned another page. 8. Time management. 8.1 Weekly date night, Thursday. 8.21 Weekend day, reserved for quality time. 8.3 Boyfriend, to provide monthly calendar transparency screenshot. I'm not trying to control you, Sloan said quickly. I'm trying to avoid drift. What's drift? The thing where you realize you haven't seen each other in 3 weeks and call it chemistry when it's really poor planning. I couldn't argue with the logic. It was the tone that chilled, like being told a bedtime story with court citations. At the bottom of the last page sat a signature line already occupied, Sloan redacted, in a confident loop, dated last month. A second line waited under a blank, where my name should go. Below that, termination clause. 12. Termination. 12.13 Warnings escalate to probation, 2 weeks. 12.2 Subsequent violation triggers termination. 12.3 Termination is immediate and non-appealable. 12.4 Parties agree to no closure conversations post-termination. Non-appealable. I read out loud, because sometimes your mouth needs to hear the words your eyes don't believe. She dabbed her lips. I prefer clean edges. Do people sign this? I asked, genuinely curious. 2 have, she said. 1 made it to probation. 1 violated Section 2.1 on a Sunday. Avoidable. I felt my phone vibrate. Max, how's the burger treaty? I slid the phone face down and inhaled. The burger had cooled into a metaphor. Look, Sloan said, softening a notch. I've wasted years in situationships where no one defines anything. This is me defining it. If you're serious, you sign. If you're not, that's okay. We split the check and shake hands. Do we need a witness for the handshake? I said, and immediately wished I hadn't joked. Her eyes thinned. I'm not a clown for your story, she said. I'm an adult who knows what she wants. That part resonated. I do love people who know. But knowing isn't the same as deputizing. I glanced again at the white-out ghost between 3 and 5 and wondered who used to live there. Was it 4? Privacy? 4 passwords? A name? Lonnie drifted back with the to-go boxes neither of us had requested. He set one down, then another, then like a magician palming a coin, slipped a receipt under my elbow. On the blank side he'd scrawled, "You don't have to sign to be serious." He didn't wait for thanks. Sloane noticed the movement, but not the message. "No rush," she said, sliding me the pen. "Take the weekend if you need to. I have a print-friendly version." I looked at the pen. I looked at her. I looked at the word termination and imagined our future as a series of compliance checks, me like a new employee trying not to click the wrong box. "I think your clarity will be perfect for someone," I said, placing the pen on the folio like returning a relic. "I just don't think it's me." She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply lifted the papers back with the same efficiency she'd set them down, slid them into the folio, and clicked it shut. "Then let's not waste each other's time," she said, and stood. At the counter, she thanked Lonnie by name, because of course she'd read his tag, then left without looking back. The bell over the door did its little tinny jingle, indifferently. I sat there a minute longer, chewing a fry that tasted like relief and ketchup, then flipped the receipt and read Lonnie's line again. It felt like a bookmark in a book I wasn't going to finish. I've driven the same car since college, a dented 2012 Honda Accord that smells faintly like sunscreen and old library books. It starts every time, the ASC works, and the only light on the dash is the little one that begs for windshield washer fluid in February. It's not cool, but it's loyal. I didn't think that mattered for a first date until I met Ariel. She picked Lucha Llama, the neon-drenched taco place that looks like a music video had a baby with a sticker book. Murals on every wall, cumbia thumping, pink lighting that made everyone look slightly sunburned. I parked a block away because the street out front was a valet situation, and I didn't want to pay $12 to a guy in a vest to drive my car 10 feet. I texted her from the sidewalk, here, and she replied with a heart and a question. "What are you driving?" I glanced at the Accord like I'd just been asked to introduce a shy friend. "Silver Honda," I typed. Ariel rounded the corner moments later, a flash of beige trench, glossy hair, and a phone already in her hand. She gave me a half hug, eyes skimming past my shoulder to the curb. "Where'd you park?" she asked, scanning the row. "Down there," I said, pointing. She followed my finger, took in the Honda, and I watched her face do the math. The smile didn't leave, exactly, it just unhooked from her eyes. "Cute," she said, which felt like calling a grown man little guy. Inside Lucha Llama, the hostess Luz led us to a two-top under a fluorescent green llama with sunglasses. The second we sat, Ariel held up her phone to the room like a divining rod. "This place is great for content," she said. "Can we get the tequila flight? They do smoke." She didn't wait for my answer before flagging the server. For 20 minutes, I got her highlight reel. She worked remote in brand partnerships. She curated her grid on Sundays. She could tell by a man's shoes whether he was sponsor-capable or chaos. She showed me a carousel from last month. Her ex's matte black AMG, a Skyline, her laughing out the passenger door in an outfit coordinated to the car's interior. The likes were a sea of hearts. "It just elevates," she said, flipping to a rooftop shot. "You know, a good car makes everything cleaner." I asked about travel, family, music. She replied in captions. "Paris in the fall hits, golden hour on the Seine. Unreal. My mom's a queen. I'm a house vibes girly." The server set down tacos al pastor and a cocktail crowned with a flaming lime. She filmed the pour in slow motion and told me to wait before taking a bite, so the steam looks good. My tacos cooled into props. Eventually the conversation circled back to my car, as if pulled by gravity. "So you've had the Accord for how long?" she asked. "Since junior year," I said. "Paid it off 2 years ago." "Loyalty is adorable," she said, and then, with the earnestness of someone discussing sunscreen, "but cycle time matters. Rotation keeps things fresh." "For cars?" "For the feed," she said, not even blinking. "Door shots, hood reflections, you can't do that on a Honda. It warps." She took a sip of her drink and added, as if confiding a secret, black looks best. Or white if the trim pops. I tried not to laugh. Are we dating to co-produce your grid? Don't be dramatic, she said lightly. It's just nice when a lifestyle aligns. She scrolled for proof. A G-Wagon hood reflecting her in a silver dress. A Porsche badge with her pink nails perched just so. See? It's aesthetic. It communicates. I offered a neutral sound. She took it as consent. When the check came, she didn't glance at it. Fine, I'd invited her out, and I don't keep score on first dates. But as we stood to leave, she said, "Could you pull your car up? I want to try a passenger seat selfie." I have a caption in mind. Outside, the valet stand blinked under a string of bulbs. Omari, the valet, tossed me a sympathetic look as I jogged down the block. I eased the Accord up to the curb between two glossy SUVs that looked like they came with their own stylists. Ariel slid into the passenger seat and immediately lowered the visor mirror. "Lighting's harsh," she said, moving the vent with a manicured finger. She snapped a photo, then another, then 6 more. She frowned at the headliner. "The fabric kills the bounce." "Sorry my ceiling isn't a ring light," I said. She didn't hear me over the shutter sound. "We tried a door shot." She perched with one leg out, lifted the phone to catch the city reflecting in the hood. Instead, the hood showed a warped llama and the faint ghost of a bird gift from earlier in the day. She made a face like she'd bitten a lemon. "It's giving mid," she said, and grimaced at herself for saying it out loud. "No offense." "None taken," I lied. Omari cleared his throat from the curb. "You can angle off the license plate," he suggested, deadpan professional. "If you're trying to hide reality." She tried. The plate photobombed. The chrome didn't flatter. After 7 more attempts, Ariel sighed and locked her phone. "It just doesn't hit." "Maybe it's not about the car," I said. "Maybe it's about the person in it." "That's sweet," she said, like I'd drawn her a picture of a house with smoke coming from the chimney. "But the person can't fix the palette." We rode in silence for a minute while she scrolled her DMs. "Can you drop me 2 blocks down?" she asked suddenly. "My friend's meeting me. She has a Model Y that's clean." "Sure," I said, even though my insides had turned to tinfoil. I pulled up to a corner where the streetlights made everything look briefly cinematic. Ariel unbuckled, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and pecked the air near my cheek. "Thanks for dinner," she said. "You're nice. You should think about upgrading, just in general. It opens doors." She gestured vaguely at the world. "Doors like car doors?" I said. She laughed like I'd nailed the punchline to a joke we weren't sharing. "Text me," she added, already half out of the car, phone up, framing her exit. Omari happened to be parking a convertible nearby. He caught my eye and, after Ariel disappeared into the glow of a new set of headlights, wandered over. "She does the circuit," he said. "Drinks. Shots. Different guy, same angle. Not my business, but hey." He shrugged. "Yeah," I said. "Not mine either." "Your ride's fine," he added, patting the roof like an old dog. "It gets you home." I drove back across town with the radio low and the window cracked. At a red light, I looked at my reflection in the dark glass of a storefront. My car, square and unassuming, me a little deflated and a little amused. My phone buzzed at the next stop. "Ariel, thanks. You're sweet. Let's hang at the beach next time. Golden hour in a convertible is insane." I typed. I'm more of a sunrise in a Honda guy, then deleted it and put the phone face down. When I pulled into my apartment lot, I sat for a while, listening to the engine click as it cooled. The smell of sunscreen and old paper filled the cabin, familiar as a handshake. I took a picture, no filter, no caption, just the dash light glow on my hands, and didn't send it to anyone. Then I went inside, feeling oddly relieved, like I'd passed a test I hadn't studied for by failing it on purpose. We met at Cedar and Cole's, a tiny Lebanese place that smells like char and lemon the moment you open the door. I'm Mina. He was Darian, nice shirt, careful cologne, the kind of smile that photographs well. We ordered too much food. Hummus with a lake of olive oil, chicken tawuk, a pile of pickles so neon they looked illegal. It was easy until I mentioned my brother, Eli. "Eli and I play pickup on Sundays," I said, spearing a cube of chicken. "He's the only person who'll tell me when my jump shot is a crime." Darian's eyebrows moved just enough to notice. "How often do you two talk?" "Daily, probably. He lives 10 minutes away." He leaned back, folded his arms. "I don't do women with close male attachments." I laughed because it sounded like a line from a bad seminar. "He's my brother. That's not different, he said, calm like he was explaining a warranty. If we're serious, I should be the only man you depend on. It's about loyalty. The air shifted. Plates clinked in the kitchen. Our server, Yara, glided by with mint tea and a radar for bad vibes. She placed the pot gently. Everything good here? She asked, eyes flicking from him to me. Great, Darian said, answering for both of us. He kept going, a policy manual in human form. No late-night calls with him. No one-on-one hangs. If there's news, you tell me first. We can set healthy phone boundaries, like a 30-minute audit on Sundays, so I know where your energy goes. Also, put me as emergency contact number 1. It communicates priority. My fork stalled halfway to my mouth. You're asking me to demote my family on date 1. I'm offering structure, he corrected. Men and women need clarity. Your brother will understand if he respects you. Yara returned with extra pita unrequested, a tiny kindness with a warning baked in. She set it down and met my eyes long enough to say, You don't have to eat this. Darian, I said, my brother taught me how to ride a bike, patched my first apartment ceiling, and picked me up when my alternator died at midnight. You're not replacing him, not now, not ever. He exhaled through his nose, disappointed teacher. Then we're not aligned. I agree, I said and signaled for the check. Outside, the night air felt like a rinse. Eli answered on the first ring. How was it? Educational, I said. Want shawarma? I've got leftovers. On my way, he said. 5 minutes later, we were laughing in my kitchen, mint and smoke still clinging to the bag, and my phone was blissfully free of any man's audit. I'm Rhea, and I went into the date thinking the biggest decision I'd make all night was whether to order the miso black cod or play it safe with a spicy tuna roll. Cole had suggested Toro and Lantern, one of those moody sushi spots where the light is low enough to hide your worst angles and a blue-lit tank hums like a lullaby near the hostess stand. He showed up in a denim shirt with the sleeves rolled, hair that looked like he'd learned product names, and an easy smile that made the hostess, Marisol, say, Table for 2? Or 3? Like a joke she tells everyone. 2, he said, laughing. I'm not that chaotic. We started easy. Work, he was in commercial printing. I do user research for a mental health app. Favorite neighborhoods. The way the city smells like rain, and takeout on summer nights. He had an easy way with stories, just enough self-deprecation to feel human. By the time our seared salmon arrived, I was thinking, okay, date 3 material if this keeps up. Then Cole put his chopsticks down like he was about to propose to the soy sauce. Just so I'm transparent, he said, I live with my ex. I froze mid-reach for the ginger. Like currently? Yeah, he said. Tessa, we broke up months ago. All good. We're best friends. It's just rent is insane, and we actually work really well as roommates. A laugh tried to escape my throat and came out as a cough. Temporary situation? I asked, careful. He shook his head. It works. We have a system. We're not fixing what isn't broken. He smiled like he'd just said something wise. I've learned the hard way that people who are secure don't make it a thing. My brain did that slideshow thing where it starts producing images you didn't order. 2 toothbrushes in a cup. A couch purchased together, argued and compromised over, living like a silent middle child between them. A shared calendar named Us. Cole, oblivious to the sirens going off in my head, kept explaining. We split groceries. We alternate cooking. She does a killer shoyu ramen on Sundays. We host game nights, Settlers 1 week, Jackbox the next. We're kind of a community hub. People love our place. Marisol swung by with extra napkins. Y'all need anything else? She asked, eyes flitting between us with that radar-only restaurant people have. She set down the napkins and added quietly to me, the yellowtail collar's great, in the tone of someone offering an escape hatch. So you're not looking to move? I said. We just renewed for a year, he said, apologetic the way someone might be about having a dog that sheds. But it's cool, we date. We don't bring people home often, though, out of respect. Unless it's serious. His eyes lifted, all hopeful. Which, who knows? I could feel my face trying to stay neutral. How does that work? With dating? Full transparency, he said. Like tonight. And Tessa's super chill. She actually wants to meet the people I see, say hi, ease any awkwardness. She has a great read on vibes. If she says green light, I trust it. Your ex vets your dates. I said just to make sure words still meant what I thought they meant. Not vet, he said, wincing. Just she's there. It's her home, too. So if you come by, it's not weird. Think of it like meeting a roommate early. He took a sip of beer. We even got a new couch last weekend. Modular, so we can make it into a movie pit. The couch appeared in my head again, now with a label, ours. You and your ex bought a couch together after breaking up. It's neutral, he said, like color swatches were going to save us. Beige. Looks good with the fern. His phone buzzed on the table. He didn't pick it up, just glanced. The preview banner said, Tessa, did you get extra ponzu? Also don't forget trash night flex biceps. He shoved the phone face down, casual as a shrug. She's a list person, he said. I tried to imagine stepping into that apartment. In my head, it became a floor plan I'd draw in a notebook. Entry, shoe rack with his boots and her heeled ankle boots pretending they never saw the other naked. Living room, the new beige sectional, art prints they discovered together, a throw blanket draped like proof of chemistry that grew into comfort. Kitchen, their mugs, his Sharpa labels, grocery lists stuck to the fridge with a magnet from a winery trip they took in another life, but still like to remember. Hallway 2 doors. Hers with a macrame hanging. His with a coat hook. Somewhere, a lint roller that belongs to both of them. People do this, he said, as if reading my drawing. We're adults. Not everything has to be drama. I'm not allergic to grown-up solutions, I said. I'm allergic to auditioning in front of the last lead. It wouldn't be like that, he said, earnest. You'd love her. She's funny. She's the one who made me get into Pilates. She'll hype your outfit. She's the best. The server, Kenji, slid the check down subtly like a good magician. Cole reached for it and waved when I reached, too. My invite, he said. At least let me do that. He signed with a little flourish and then brightened. Actually, do you want to swing by for a nightcap? She's probably home, but she'll head to her room. We can watch a movie. We have this projector now. I stared at him. He was not a villain. He wasn't cruel. He was simply a person who had built a life that fit him so precisely he couldn't see how anyone else would feel squeezed by it. I'm going to pass, I said, keeping my voice soft. I don't do that. Do what? Open concept relationships with closed doors, I said. Collaborative floor plans. Shared couches with ghosts. He frowned, not angry, just confused. You're reading into it. It's just rent and routine. It's history, I said. And history lives in fabric. We stood. He hugged me politely and said, think about it. I don't want to lose something good just because it's unconventional. Unconventional is fine, I said. Unended is not. In the car, my group chat lit up. Priya, survived? Me, he lives with his ex. And, as in a plant, or a human woman. Me, human. Named Tessa. Bought a couch together. Priya, knew the couch is a contract. Cole texted the next morning at 9:02 a.m. Had a great time. Come by ours Friday? Tessa's making ramen. You'll love her. I typed and erased 3 drafts, then sent the simplest thing. I'm not comfortable with your living situation. Wishing you well. Dots. Then, totally your loss. Most women are chill about it. I put the phone face down and opened my windows. The city smelled like rain and takeout. Somewhere in a blue-lit tank, fish circled without ever touching the glass. I made coffee and sat on my very single-person couch, a color I chose alone, and was unexpectedly, deeply grateful for every quiet inch of space that answered only to me. The plan was pancakes and coffee at Bluebird Diner, not a performance review. I'm Sophia. He was Julian, tall, neat beard, cable knit sweater, even though it was warm. I'd arrived a few minutes early and grabbed a booth by the window, the kind with a jukebox that ate quarters but never played songs. The waitress, Talia, slid me a water and said, "You'll want the blueberry stack. Trust." Julian texted, "Parking now." 30 seconds later the bell over the door chimed, and he walked in with a woman beside him. She was in a navy blazer, small pearl earrings, clutching her handbag like a witness about to testify. "Sophia, this is my mom Lydia," he said cheerfully, as if introducing a puppy he'd rescued. I blinked. "Hi." "Hello, dear," Lydia said, sliding into the booth across from me before I could process whether I'd agreed to this seating chart. Julian sat next to her. Talia paused at the edge of the table, raised an eyebrow in my direction, and said to Lydia, "Coffee?" "Decaf," Lydia said. "I'm monitoring my heart." "Great," Talia said slowly, scribbling, then mouthed to me when they looked away. "You good?" I gave the world's smallest shrug. Menus opened. Lydia frowned at hers like it contained misprints. "Do you know how to cook?" she asked me without preamble. I laughed, thinking we were joking. I get by. From scratch, she pressed. Sauces? Stocks? Julian likes traditional food. Not packaged. Mom, Julian murmured, smoothing his napkin. He was smiling. He was always smiling. I tried to reroute. How was parking? Fine, Lydia said. We found a spot by the pharmacy. Now, Sophia, tell me your thoughts on children. She said it the way someone says tell me your stance on tariffs. I felt my spine straighten. Big question for pancakes, I said. It's important, she said. Fertility declines in the 30s. Have you had your levels checked? Talia arrived just then, praise her, with a pot of coffee and a look that could cut through reinforced concrete. Ready to order? She asked, loud enough for the bordering booth to turn. Chicken fried steak, Julian said, bright as a lamp. And the blueberry stack for her, he added, nodding at me like he was proud to demonstrate leadership. I'll order for myself, I said, smiling at Talia. Blueberry stack. And bacon. Good choice, Talia said, enjoying herself now. She glanced at Lydia. And for you, decaf, right? Also a side of fruit, Lydia said. I'm watching sugar. She turned back to me. Do you go to church? We expect a household aligned on values. There was we. The invisible third person made visible in a navy blazer. Julian reached to squeeze his mother's hand. She's just thorough, he said to me, like this was quirky and cute, like a mother who collects ceramic frogs. It's a family thing. We vet carefully. Vet, I repeated. Bluebird Diner hummed on around us, forks, hiss of the griddle, the bell from the pass where the cook, a guy with forearms like tree trunks and a name tag that said GUS, slid plates under heat lamps. He caught my eye as Talia grabbed our order and gave a sympathetic half-smile, the kind you give someone stuck in an elevator. Lydia leaned in. Would you be willing to live near us? I help with laundry, and I don't want to drive far. Also, I pray over the house weekly, so I'd need a key. Mom, Julian said again, still smiling, but now the smile was stretched thin, like plastic wrap over something that needed air. We're just getting to know each other. That's what we're doing, Lydia said. Efficiently. The pancakes arrived like a rescue boat, blueberries bleeding into butter, syrup warm. Talia set them down and, without missing a beat, placed a folded receipt under the edge of my plate. When she walked away, I eased it open with one finger. In looping pen it read, "Run if you want, we'll pack it to go." T. Lydia asked me what kind of wife I imagined being. Present, she said, before I could answer, is the correct word. She ticked items off on invisible fingers. Present wife, present mother, present daughter-in-law. Julian works very hard. He deserves peace when he comes home. I believe in peace, I said, setting my fork down. I also believe in boundaries. Lydia tilted her head, something hawk-like passing over her face. Boundaries are fashionable right now, she said. Families need closeness. Closeness isn't the same as control, I said, still gentle. Julian's smile flickered. Let's not make this heavy, he said. Mom just wanted to meet you. On a first date, I said. He hesitated. It's efficient, he echoed. I looked at him, kind eyes, careful hair, sweater that suggested he was soft, and maybe he was, but softness doesn't cancel out the shape of a life already decided. I looked at Lydia, who clearly loved her son, the way tectonic plates love their positions, deeply, immovably. I think I'm done, I said as kindly as I could. With breakfast, I added, to give everyone a place to put their faces. Talia materialized with a to-go box like a magician's final reveal. Let me wrap that, she said. Gus dinged the bell twice and muttered something that sounded like, Amen. Outside, the morning was bright, traffic soft. Julian followed me to the door. You're really leaving? He asked, baffled. I am, I said. I'm looking for a partner, not a panel. Lydia stepped up beside him. If you won't be evaluated, you're not serious, she said. I am serious, I said, and held up the bag with pancakes. About breakfast, at least. Talia, behind the counter now, saluted with the coffee pot. Good luck, she mouthed. On the sidewalk, I breathed for what felt like the first time. My phone buzzed. Best friend, Noor. How's Mr. Sweater? He brought his mom, I typed. A beat, then to a date? To an interview, I wrote, and sent a picture of the to-go box. Silver lining, excellent pancakes. I picked Citron because it's small enough to talk and dark enough to hide a bad laugh. Brass bar, neon sign that says stay a while, cocktails with names that sound like indie albums. I'm Mark. She was Serena, red blazer, hair slicked into a sharp knot, heels that made her a half-inch taller than me, and exactly as sure of herself as they sounded walking across the tile. She ordered before she Saturday smoked paloma. Double grapefruit. To me, you'll like the old-fashioned here. It wasn't a question. I shrugged and said sure. The bartender, Jules, lifted an eyebrow like he'd seen this play before and set a coaster in front of me with a soft thud. The first 20 minutes were normal. Jobs, I'm an MRI tech, she's in brand strategy, which, near as I could tell, meant she made PowerPoints pretty and expensive. We laughed about our worst apartment stories. She teased the way I say caramel. I learned she ran 3 miles every morning and hated cilantro with a passion that bordered on religious. Then the topic swerved. College was a blast, she said, twirling the straw in a way that made the ice clink like a metronome. But it's criminal what they charge for a degree. Tell me about it, I said. I'm still paying off a chunk. Almost done, though. She smiled at my drink instead of me. You're lucky. I waited, and she let the next part drop like a coin into a quiet room. My loans are intense, she said, and opened her phone as if she were about to show me a vacation photo. Instead, she pulled up a spreadsheet, color-coded tabs at the bottom, columns of numbers like a city scene from above. At the top, Serena, payoff plan in a font that belonged on a billboard. Jules set a candle between us and drifted away. The tiny flame leaned toward Serena's side of the table and stayed there. I've done the math, she said, tapping a cell that flashed yellow. With interest, staying the course would take me 11 years. That's unacceptable. So I made a rule for myself. I won't get serious with someone who can't eliminate this. Eliminate, I repeated, as if trying out a foreign word. Pay it off, she clarified, bright and calm. Before we move forward. I laughed, small and polite, because I thought we were still in the bit. She didn't laugh back. Look, she said, moving the spreadsheet so it squared with the coaster. I'm not asking for the moon. I'm asking for a partner who believes in investing in our future. My friend Nadia's fiancé cleared hers last year. They're thriving. That's the energy I'm aligning with. I stared at the columns like they might rearrange into a joke if I blinked slow enough. How much are we talking? She told me. It was a number with commas. The kind of number that makes your stomach do a slow tide out. She continued, unfazed. I've got scenarios, she said, sliding to another tab titled Candidate Models. My job title was already there, with an estimated salary I hadn't given her and a neat little cell circled in light green, feasible. I based this on market data, she added, almost apologetic for the imprecision. How do you? I started, then decided I didn't need the answer. Serena, we just met. Exactly, she said. Transparency early prevents heartbreak later. If you can't do this, that's fine. But I only date men who can. She said it so cleanly that I could almost admire the geometry of it. Almost. Jules reappeared to refresh the ice, and gave me a look that said he'd happily whisk me through the emergency exit if I blinked SOS. I didn't blink. I was curious how far the math went. Do your candidate models have names? I asked. She smiled. No, but I nickname X's in my head. There was Bridge Loan, all charm, no liquidity. Credit Freeze, who panicked when I mentioned budgets. And Deferred, who wanted to circle back in a year. She laughed, the first unguarded sound of the night. I don't waste time anymore. There it was, the line between preference and policy. I picked up my glass, set it down. So if someone's kind, funny, loyal. Those are bonuses, she said. Stability is the foundation. Love without structure is chaos. I thought about my sister's second-hand couch, the way we'd lugged it up 3 flights of stairs while she laughed so hard she cried. I thought about my dad's hands after 30 years of fixing other people's appliances, the way he called any new problem solvable, and meant it. I thought about commas in numbers and commas in sentences, and which ones mattered more at the end of a day. Let me ask you something, I said. If someone cleared it, today what changes? She didn't hesitate. Breath, she said. Freedom. I could finally plan without that noise. I could be present. You could also, I said gently, pay it off yourself and prove you can be present without someone else's wallet. Her face cooled a degree. You're moralizing. I'm allergic to being a line item, I said, and smiled so it wouldn't land like a slap. We finished our drinks. She didn't reach for the check. I did, because old habits are hard to fire. As I signed, she said almost kindly, You seem solid, Mark. If you change your mind, I have the amortization table ready. Outside, the night smelled like rain stuck in warm concrete. Serena tapped out something on her phone, probably a note under candidate models, and hugged me with the efficiency of a person who schedules hugs. "No hard feelings," she said. "None," I said and meant it. A block away, my phone buzzed. "Unknown, thanks for coming in. You're a great guy, just not an investor." Kiss mark. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed, then laughed, finally, the laugh that had been waiting since the spreadsheet appeared. Back at Citron, Jules was wiping down the bar. I ducked in to grab the scarf I'd left on my stool. He held it up. "You all good?" "Debt-free," I said. "Best kind," he said, and slid me a glass of water on the house. No smoke, no flourish, just cold and simple, and exactly what I needed. I'm Camille, and by the third date I'd decided Adrian was quirky in a harmless way. Late to everything, owns too many cardigans, laughs with his whole face. He suggested Olive Street Osteria, a narrow Italian place with red-checked tablecloths and framed soccer jerseys. The host, a guy with a pencil mustache and a name tag that said Rico, slid us to a corner table beneath a sepia photo of a Vespa. Adrian arrived already mid-story, breathless from parallel parking heroics, and handed me a single daisy like he'd raided a neighbor's planter. Cute. We ordered Chianti and Pappardelle, and he told me about work, QA for a fitness app, which sounded like breaking things for money. I told him I'd do archival digitization at the university. He asked if that meant ghost whisperer, but for paper. I laughed despite myself. Then the food came, and the conversation swerved. "So," he said, folding a noodle onto his fork with careful attention, "we should talk logistics." "Of pasta?" I asked. "Of us," he said, leaning in. "Specifically moving in." I blinked. "You mean eventually?" "I mean soon," he said, bright as a sales pitch. He fished out his phone and turned the screen to me. A shared notes doc glowed titled Cohab Plan, C+A. Beneath it, bullet points, closet space, 50-50, but I'm flexible, grocery split, we'll figure, dog responsibilities, primary you. "Dog responsibilities?" I said slowly. He lit up, thumb already swiping to photos. "I can't believe I haven't shown you Juniper yet." A dozen images of a cinnamon-colored rescue, big eyes, bigger ears, filled the screen. Juniper sleeping on a gray duvet, Juniper in a Halloween taco costume, Juniper on a hiking trail wearing boots. "She's my heart," he said. "But my sprint cycles are about to go nuclear, and she struggles with alone time." I waited for the follow-up sentence, and it landed like a bowling ball. "So if you moved in," he continued, "you could be with her. Morning walks, lunchtime enrichment, vet runs. You'd be amazing at it. You have caretaker energy." Rico drifted by with a water pitcher, catching just enough to raise an eyebrow. He poured, then set the pitcher down in a way that meant "you good?" I gave an ambiguous smile. "We, Adrian," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. "We've gone for coffee, duckpin bowling, and now pasta. This is a leap." He nodded, unfazed. "It's not a leap, it's efficiency. Look." He opened Google Calendar. A whole week of little blocks filled the screen. 6:15 to 6:45 a.m. morning walk, C. 12 to 12:30 p.m. Sniffari, C. 3 to 3:20 p.m. Lickmat prep, C. 6:30 to 7 p.m. park, A. Sunday was grooming, C. with a pink heart. "Obviously flexible," he said, "but structure builds trust." "C is me?" I asked. He grinned. "You're a natural. And Juniper already loves you." "I've met Juniper once," I said. "On FaceTime." "Exactly," he said, as if he'd proved a theorem. "She barked twice, that's her yes." The Chianti suddenly tasted like grape juice from a communion cup. "Where would I live?" I said, because sometimes you ask questions you already fear the answer to. He swiped to a crudely drawn floor plan, bedroom rectangles, arrows, a desk labeled Camille's Nook jammed into a corner. "You get the left closet," he said. I measured. "Your sweaters will fit if you Marie Kondo vertical fold. And you can sell your couch, we already have a sectional." A text banner flashed across his screen. "Mom, did you tell her about responsibilities?" He flicked it away, sheepish for the first time. "She adores Juniper too," he said. "She'll help if you're slammed." "Your mom," I said, "will help me care for your dog." "She's great with schedules," he said. Rico returned with the check halfway tucked under a ceramic rooster. Beside it, he placed a small slip of paper wide as a fortune from a cookie. When he stepped away, I lifted it with one finger. "You don't have to adopt a man to date him." Adrian kept building the castle. "Keys are easy," he said. "I can get a copy made tomorrow." He tapped the table twice, looked pleased with the tap like it meant something had been decided. "I'll text you my complex gate code." The part of me that likes to solve things wanted to fix the moment by finding softer language. The part of me that likes staying alive wanted a door. Can I ask something? I said. Why do you want me to move in? Is it us? Or is it Juniper? He didn't even pretend to wrestle. Both, he said quickly, then added more honestly, mostly Juniper. She hates when I'm gone. And you're so calm. I can see you and her together. Nesting. Like birds making a home out of whatever they can carry in their mouths. He brightened again and toggled Instagram to an account named @JuniperJune. The bio read, Rescue Good Girl Mom. TBD with a sparkle emoji. I made that months ago, he said, proud. Manifestation. The room tilted a degree. The clink of cutlery, the hum of conversation, the faint radio soccer match, suddenly too sharp. I set my napkin down. Adrian, I said, I like you. I do. But I don't want to be hired to love your life. I want to be invited into it. He blinked, genuinely confused. It's not hiring. It's partnership. It's a schedule with my initials, I said. That you made without me. We sat in a thin pocket of silence. He looked at the floor plan, then at me, and for a moment some recognition crossed his face, like a dog hearing a sound it can't categorize. So no, he said. No, I said, not unkind. Not now. Maybe not ever. Take care of Juniper. Take care of yourself. Outside, Olive Street smelled like rain and basil. Adrian hugged me with one arm, the other hand still on his phone. You're missing out, he said, but the conviction had softened into something like disappointment. Or logistics. At home, my apartment felt wider than I remembered. 2 plants drooping like sleepy toddlers, 1 couch that belongs only to me, 1 calendar with exactly the blocks I'd chosen. My phone buzzed. Adrian, Juniper says goodnight. A photo followed. The dog asleep, nose tucked, caption still hoping for a mom 2 hearts. I stared at it for a long minute, aching a little because Juniper looked like a wish. Then I set the phone face down and went outside to my building's tiny courtyard, where a neighbor's golden retriever barreled past on a long, joyful leash, tugging its actual owner into the evening. I picked Kite House because the view makes everyone generous. Strings of bulbs over a wind-blown deck, potted olives pretending to be trees, a skyline that forgives small talk. I'm Drew. She was Valentina, slick ponytail, blazer the color of traffic cones at sunset, a gold chain that looked like it had a publicist. She arrived with the confidence of someone who'd already decided the night was a success. 2 mezcal margs, she told the server Pilar before saying hello. Then to me, you're taller than your photos. Good start. She tapped her phone screen like a nervous tick and smiled. Let's vibe check. We did the usual circuit jobs. I do lighting design for small venues. She optimizes influence funnels, which is either marketing or witchcraft. Music, the best dumplings in the city. We disagreed politely. It was smooth. She was funny in the way of people who never doubt they're right. Somewhere between the guacamole and the second round, Valentina leaned back, heels hooked on the rung of her stool, and said, So I should be up front. I don't do monogamy of attention. Okay, I said, buying time. I run a rotation, she said, like she was announcing a marathon time. 5 slots max. It works. Nobody gets overloaded, least of all me. I waited to see if the tone shifted into irony. It did not. She put her phone on the table, screen brightness high enough to tan a moth, and opened her notes app to a list titled Roster. Each line had a color dot and a role. Spaghetti foodie, airplane travel, party popper party, brain deep, pick errands. No names, just initials in parentheses. A 6th line, waited blankly. Where would I fit? I asked, because curiosity is stronger than the survival instinct. She tilted her head, assessing the way a casting director might, kindly, clinically. You're giving coziest lights in the room energy, she said. So maybe deep. Or like a swing roll. A swing roll, I repeated. Like baseball. Like Broadway, she said, delighted. I don't double book neighborhoods. Everyone gets a lane. 2 dates per week max, so I don't burn out. No one meets each other, because why create chaos? She took a sip. The light in her eyes never once checked the exit. Pilar passed by with a tray. You too good? She asked, quick glance at the spreadsheet vibe radiating off Valentina's phone. Great, Valentina said. We're just doing casting. Break a leg, Pilar said, half smile, and moved on. I tried steering us toward the human. What do you like when you're not scheduling? Oh, I schedule fun, she said. It's the only way you get quality. She tapped the phone again and opened her calendar. Color blocks everywhere, blue for workouts, pink for content, yellow for gentle people. I learned the hard way that putting all your energy in one person is bad risk management. I diversify. You tell the guys? I said. She laughed so hard she snorted. Of course not. The moment you say rotation, men catch feelings or pretend not to. I prefer outcomes to scenes. She shrugged. They're happy. I'm happy. It's efficient. The DJ, a woman with lime headphones the size of dinner plates, slid from synth pop into something bassy. Out on the deck, a group screamed when a gust of wind tried to take a hat to Jersey. Valentina leaned in, conspiratorial. The secret is rolls, she said. Foodie never asks for nightcaps. Travel has miles, I don't. Party is a dancer. Deep listens. Aaron's is useful, he hung my shelves. She held out her glass for a clink. I'm not cruel. Everyone gets their lane. No promises, no mess. What happens when someone wants more? I asked. She tilted her head. Then they graduate. Or they drop. You can't cling in a system designed to flow. She smiled, bright enough to be a warning. You'd be surprised how many stay. Men like clarity when it benefits them. And when it doesn't, they try to negotiate, she said, bored. I don't. Next. Pilar returned with water I hadn't asked for, and set it by my elbow like a flotation device. Hydrate, she said softly, then vanished. Valentina kept going, a seminar with good eyebrows. She told me about her rules, never 2 roster dates back to back, no sleepovers with party because he snores, no asking her where she's been, no reading into captions. I won't humiliate anyone, she said, as if that redeemed it. But I won't pretend I'm a one-channel person. That's not me. Where am I in your calendar? I asked, curious despite myself. She flicked to a Thursday block marked D with a star. Your good conversation, she said. Potentially soothing. A wind cut across the deck, the bulbs shivered, the skyline held. I realized I was holding my glass like a handle. I like one channel, I said finally. I'm old-fashioned like that. She considered this, not unkindly. Then we're misaligned, she said. No shame. You're cute. You'd thrive at deep for someone who has more time. I laughed, which seemed to please her. She slid the check my direction with 2 fingers, a gesture as graceful as a ballerina's exit. Thank you for the interview, she said, clinking my water this time. You did great. Do I at least get notes? I asked. She opened a new note, typed Drew, warm, articulate, probable monogamist, then locked her phone. That's a compliment, she said. Out here. We stood. She hugged me with perfect pressure, cheek cool, perfume like citrus and strategy. As she turned to leave, she waved at the DJ, who finger-gunned her back. Text me if you want to be friends, Valentina said. Friends are non-rotational. Pilar drifted over, hands in her apron. You okay, Deep? She asked, deadpan. I started laughing and couldn't stop for a minute, balancing in the wind. I picked Briar and Bone because it's the kind of old-school steakhouse that feels like a time capsule. Mahogany paneling, brass lamps, a pianist who knows every Sinatra song, and waiters in jackets that probably have names. I'm Ava. He was Grant, clean jawline, watch that flashed like a lighthouse, the posture of a man reviewing a spreadsheet. He was already seated when I arrived, one arm along the back of the booth like he'd reserved the entire restaurant. You look great, he said, standing just long enough to make eye contact, and then sitting before I did, which would be my first hint if I'd been keeping a list. Our server, Naomi, set down leather-bound menus that smelled faintly of scotch and varnish. I flipped mine open, familiar comfort, ribeyes, creamed spinach, potatoes with an identity crisis. Grant reached across the table, pinched the top of my menu, and folded it closed with 2 fingers. The motion was quick and precise, like snuffing a candle. Don't worry, he said. I'll order. It's easier. I laughed because it was my first instinct. I'm pretty good at reading, I said. He smiled in a way that didn't move his eyes. Trust me, he said. It's my thing. Naomi reappeared with water. Can I start you with? She'll have the Sauvignon Blanc, Grant said, handing her the wine list he'd never let me touch. And I'll do the rye old-fashioned. Heavy on the bitters. Naomi's gaze ticked to me like a discreet lifeline. Sauvignon okay? She asked. I was thinking a Negroni, I began. Try the Sauv Blanc, Grant said, still looking at Naomi as if I'd merely cleared my throat. It pairs with the salmon she's having. I haven't decided what I'm having, I said. He chuckled. That's the beauty. You don't have to. Naomi, who had the composure of a flight attendant during turbulence, wrote both drinks down and said, "I'll give you a minute," in a tone that meant I'll give you 3 chances to save yourself. I reopened the menu. He closed it again, lighter this time, like pressing a bruise to check if it still hurts. "Analysis paralysis," he said. "Happens to women all the time. Tonight I lead." "Is this a TED Talk?" I asked, still trying to keep it playful. He leaned in. "Here's the thing, decisive men set the tone. At work, at dinner, everywhere. Women relax when they don't have to choose." "It's a stake, not a mortgage," I said. "You'll thank me," he said. Naomi returned with the drinks and the kind of polite brightness that glows faintly red at the edges. "Are we ready to?" "Yes," Grant said. "Bone-in ribeye for me, medium rare. For the lady, the cedar plank salmon, no capers. House salad split. Creamed spinach. And bring the wine before the salad." He closed the menu, mine, his, the future, and handed them to her. Naomi glanced at me again. I held her eyes for a second, because it felt like the only thing I still owned. "Could I add the roasted carrots?" I said. "Carrots are sweet," Grant said, almost gentle. "Spinach is classic. Trust the classics." Naomi wrote carrots with a tiny flourish and nodded at me like we'd just exchanged a secret. For a while we did normal date things. Jobs. Neighborhoods. He told me the market was a game you win by not blinking. He called me kiddo once and apologized for it a second later, which is the conversational equivalent of stepping on your foot and then offering you a bandage. When the salad came, he cut it into manageable pieces with the efficiency of a surgeon and slid the smaller plate to me without asking. "I host clients here," he said. "I always order for them. Makes the night smoother." "Do they ask you to?" I said. "They learn to appreciate it," he said. "You will too." Naomi set my wine down with care. "If you want to try the Negroni after, I'll make it," she murmured, so soft it could have been the air. The salmon was fine. It was not what I wanted. The ribeye looked like the thing I would have married if it had asked. Grant sliced into his and closed his eyes like a man in a cologne ad. "I knew you'd like the salmon," he said, watching my mouth as if I might have an opinion he could correct. "It suits you." "What would I have liked if I were a different woman?" I asked. "Let's not be difficult," he said, smiling the way people smile when they move a chess piece and know you don't see the trap yet. He corrected Naomi's phrasing when she asked, "How are we doing over here?" "Try 'how is the meal for you too,'" he said, almost kindly. "It's more specific." He corrected my knife angle, said it looked uncertain, like my blade was auditioning for a part it didn't want. He corrected the pianist in passing, tempos dragging, on his way back from the restroom. Control wasn't a habit with Grant, it was a religion. When Naomi cleared the plates, he waved off my attempt to speak with a gentle pat of the air. "Dessert, of course," he said. "We'll split the cheesecake." "I don't want." "Trust me," he said again. The cheesecake arrived with a single spoon. Grant took the first bite and then held the spoon toward me, hovering, as if I might take it in my mouth from his hand. I reached for my own spoon, which Naomi had set just to the left like a safety deposit box key. Grant's jaw ticked. "I'm demonstrating generosity," he said. "Don't make it weird." "You made it weird when you adopted my choices," I said, which surprised us both with its directness. He blinked. "I like leading," he said, as if clarifying the time. "Women like following. It's biology." "Biology doesn't have a reservation here," I said. Naomi set the check down on a small silver tray with a paper doily, a gesture so old-fashioned it looped around to charming again. Grant reached for it like a magician revealing a dove. "I've got it," he said to the air, to me, to the concept of money itself. He signed with a flourish, then looked up, satisfied. "I appreciate that you let me run point tonight. It tells me a lot." "It told me a lot too," I said. Outside, the city felt newer than the room we'd left, air that wanted lungs, pavement that didn't need polishing. Grant walked me to the corner and touched my elbow in a way that was both polite and proprietary. "Let's do next Thursday," he said. "I'll pick a spot with better lighting." "Lighting's fine," I said. "I'm not available." There was a pause while he decided whether I was joking. Then the smile, "Half power now." "You'll come around," he said. "You just haven't experienced a man taking care of things." My phone buzzed as he walked away. A text from an unknown number popped up. "Had a great time. Loved how you let me lead. Next time I'll order the Barolo." I blocked the number and slid the phone into my coat. Inside Briar and Bone, I could see Naomi at the service station, scribbling on a pad. She looked up, caught my eye through the glass, and lifted an imaginary Negroni. I pantomimed a toast with the night air and headed home, suddenly ravenous for anything I chose myself. Even if it was just toast, sliced at a reckless angle, eaten standing in my kitchen with no one to thank me for it. I'm Noah. She was Kira, silver slip dress, glossy ponytail, and the kind of palms-up wave people give to audiences. She hugged me like we'd been assigned to each other and slid onto the high top, already craning for the bartender. "Two of your galaxy thing," she called to Mina, who smiled like she'd been here before. Kira winked at me. "Trust me." The first sip tasted like blueberries fell in love with gin. We did the opener dance, jobs, I do carpentry, she's between projects. Favorite dumpling place, overrated shows. She laughed easily, checking her reflection in the back bar mirror between ha-has, then lifted her glass toward mine. "To not wasting nights," she said. "Cheers." Round 2 arrived before I'd hit the halfway mark. She took a long pull and sighed like a commercial. "Thank God," she said. "I hate paying for my own drinks. It's such a tax on fun." I made a polite noise. "Yeah, tabs add up." "Oh, I don't have tabs," she said, airy. "I do dates." She said it like I biked to work. Men are buying drinks somewhere no matter what. I streamline it. I waited for the grin that meant she was kidding. It didn't come. She tilted her phone to show a calendar with hearts on 3 nights, clinking glass emojis on 2. "I keep it efficient," she said. "Never back to back. Hydration breaks." She tapped a note labeled Rhoda and scrolled, H&N Arcade Bar The Pearl. "I don't double venues in a week. Gotta keep it fresh." Mina set down water without being asked. "How we doing?" she asked, eyes flicking to me for half a beat. "Great," Kira said. "He's sweet." Mina's mouth made a shape that said copy that and drifted away. Kira told me about past nights like war stories. "There was a Tuesday I pulled 5 different infusions," she said, counting on perfectly manicured fingers. "I Ubered home on a guy's credit because I was unsafe walking." She laughed. "He texted 'Did you get home?' 40 times. Block." I tried to pivot. "What do you do for work when you're on a project?" "Brand activations," she said, which might mean anything. "But you can't rely on that. People are flaky. Drinks are reliable." Round 3, neon pink with a citrus peel twist, landed. Kira lifted it instantly and snapped a selfie, the rim kissing her lip. "Caption idea?" she asked, not waiting for one. "Good men are seasonal." "Too mean." Her thumb moved, and the photo flew to a story I wasn't invited to see. I asked if she'd want to grab food, nachos, even fries, to slow the ride. She waved it off. "Food ruins the angles," she said, leaning to catch the light. "I like to keep it clean." Behind us, Reef, the bouncer, did his slow circuit, arms like mooring ropes under a black tee. He paused at our high top. "Everything good here?" he asked, easy but not casual. "Fantastic," Kira said, already back to her camera. Reef nodded toward my nearly full glass. "Pace yourself," he said softly to me and kept moving. For drinks in, hers polished, mine stalled. Kira's smile got wider and her attention narrower. She told me about a guy named Toby who was a legend for a week, and a Dan who tried to split the bill. "We're not friends," she'd told him. She called her strategy a hobby, then a skill, then finally a system. "It's like couponing," she said, delighted with herself. "But for nightlife." The bill slipped onto the table like a magician's card. She did not glance. I put my card down out of habit and a desire to end the scene. Mina's eyebrow rose half a tick. She took the folio and disappeared. Kira's phone lit up. She brightened. "Oh, perfect," she said, grabbing her clutch. "My friend's throwing a rooftop thing a few blocks over. You're fun, Noah. We'll do this again. Or we could both go." I said, half a joke, half an experiment in physics. She gave me a soft, pitying smile. "It's a girl's thing. You get it." She kissed the air near my cheek. "Thanks for the drinks." She moved like a dancer through the room, hugging Mina over the bar, tapping Reef's fist as she breezed past. He watched her go, then came back to me as the folio returned. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, a little embarrassed at how relieved the water tasted. Lesson learned. Mina set the folio down, but kept a finger on it. "You don't have to do this again," she said. "Some people come to the bar for the bar. Some come for the camera." I signed, added too big a tip because I wanted to pay the room and not the act, and stood. Outside, the sign flickered "Stay Wild" into the humid night. I walked 2 blocks without looking at my phone, then opened it anyway. "Kira, thanks. Had fun. Beach next week?" Better light winking face. I typed "I'm not a lighting budget," deleted it, and settled for good luck. On the bus home, the air smelled like spilled beer and rain. A couple across the aisle shared a paper bag of fries, one at a time, laughing every time the bus lurched and the salt went flying. I watched them like a movie with a happy ending, then looked at my reflection in the window and laughed, too, quietly to myself into the city's blur. The bell over the Thai restaurant door made a sound like a teacup clinking a saucer, and the smell of lemongrass met me halfway down the aisle. Paper lanterns glowed mango orange above the two tops. I told the hostess I was meeting someone, and she set a water with lime at the corner table where you can see the whole room and, if you angle right, the street. Ethan arrived wind-shook and smiling, the kind of smile that looks practiced but not unkind. "Parking on Pine is chaos," he said, sliding into the chair across from me. His eyes skimmed the exits, the kitchen swing door, the window's reflection. "Good spot," he added, like we'd chosen it together for tactical reasons. Our server, a woman with a Lucky Cricket pin on her apron, set down menus. "I'm Molly," she said. "Call if you need me." It sounded less like hospitality and more like a promise. The opening 20 minutes were the kind that make you think maybe you've misjudged the whole enterprise of dating. He worked in IT like sour beers, once tried to keep a succulent alive for a year and made it 10 months. I told him about my sister's mischievous beagle and the way it could open the freezer drawer with its paw. We ordered pad CEW and red curry. Molly smiled approval and vanished. "So," Ethan said when the plates landed. "Transparency time." "Okay," I said, easing a noodle into submission. "I verify people," he said, as if he were offering a service. "I don't trust apps. Too much catfishing." He leaned in, pleased with himself. "I drove by your workplace this afternoon." My fork stopped. The restaurant sound faded a notch. He mistook my blank look for encouragement and pulled out his phone. "Don't worry, totally discreet," he said. 2 blocks away. Tinted windows. I just wanted to make sure you were real before we wasted a night." He swiped to a photo. A dashcam still framed our lobby in slanted daylight. There was the company name, backward in the glass. There was the vending machine just inside, the reflection of a bus going by, a figure whose shape felt horribly familiar. "That's my building," I said, because the brain names things when it panics. He brightened. "Right? Google Street View is outdated, so I like to do a quick sweep. The dashcam pulls clean frames." "I blurred plates," he added, magnanimous. "I parked by the deli so no one noticed." Across the aisle, Molly paused mid-step, eyes flicking from the phone to my face to the door and back, a tiny triangle of concern. She moved on, but slower. "I didn't tell you where I work," I said. He grinned. "Research. First name, city, 1 clue from your profile, and boom, LinkedIn. Company site lists our people. You're very Googleable. It's cute." I took a sip of water that tasted like metal. "You drove there," I said. "Today." "Only once," he said. "Well, twice. Lunch and end of day. I wanted to see Flo. It's safer this way." He forked curry like we were discussing the weather. "I've done this for other dates. You can't be too careful." "You can actually," I said, and my voice surprised me with how even it stayed. "You can be careful on your end without making me the field you scout." He blinked, puzzled. "But you Googled me." "Everyone does. This is just the next layer." "That's a layer," I said, between a screen and my front door. The paper lantern above our table hummed faintly with trapped heat. Molly materialized with a to-go box she hadn't been asked for and set it within reach, eyes steady. "Need anything else?" she asked. It was not a question about food. Ethan misread the room as stubbornness. "You're overreacting," he said, softening his tone, a man soothing a skittish horse. "It's not stalking. It's due diligence. I didn't go inside." "You shouldn't have gone," I said. "Full stop." He opened his mouth, shut it, tried a different angle. "I could show you how I do it," he offered. "So you feel safe, too." "I don't feel safe," I said, standing. "That's the point." Molly slid the check down with the grace of someone defusing a live wire. "I can split," she said. "I've got it," I said, already reaching. Paying felt like buying my exit. On the sidewalk, the night was damp and close. Ethan followed, hands up in a peaceable shape. "Hey," he said, baffled and a little wounded. "I was protecting both of us." "From me?" I asked. "From risk," he said. "Then listen, I'm telling you a risk," I said, stepping back. "Me." He watched me go with the expression of someone who's sure the map is correct and the road wrong. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. You're overreacting. It's just research. I blocked the number and kept walking until the smell of lemongrass faded, and the only thing I could hear was my own breath, steadying. Smoke Ring Barbecue was one of those places where the air felt seasoned, sweet, peppery, a little dangerous. A chalkboard promised brisket until it's gone, and behind the counter a mountain of meat surrendered in shiny slices under a long knife. The pitmaster, a quiet bear of a man with Ray stitched over his heart, looked up as I stepped in. He read the first date stiffness on my face and gave a small, friendly nod, the kind you offer a person about to ride a roller coaster for the first time. Madison arrived in a sundress and white sneakers, a messy bun that was definitely planned. She greeted me with a two-cheek air kiss like a realtor, saying congratulations on your escrow, and steered us to the counter. We ordered like we were feeding a softball team: brisket, ribs, mac and cheese, collards, extra pickles, cornbread that steamed when you tore it open. Ray plated the brisket with reverence and, when he caught my hungry stare, tapped the knife once on the board as if blessing the tray. At the table, Madison was sunshine. She talked about the boutique where she worked, her mom's lavender garden, her dad narrating golf putts under his breath. It felt normal enough that my shoulders nodded. Barbecue does that to a person. She buttered a wedge of cornbread, smiled at me, and then, with the calmness of someone reminding you to keep your hands inside the vehicle, said, "Before this goes anywhere, I have a non-negotiable." "Okay," I said, expecting something like no cats or no true crime podcasts after midnight. "Whoever I marry buys my parents a house first." The sentence landed like a drop rack of ribs. I must have made a sound because she nudged my water glass closer, maternal for a second. "Not a mansion," she said quickly, as if to reassure me she was practical. "Just a good, quiet 4-bedroom. Yard for mom's lavender. Dad wants a garage and a recliner room. I call it the thank you house." She said the name like it had a trademark. I looked at the tray to steady myself. Ray drifted by with a basket of extra pickles we hadn't asked for, set it down, and let his eyes rest on my face just long enough to communicate. "I'm seeing this too, brother." Then he moved on, a brisket saint who understood silence better than most pastors. Madison had already pulled out her phone. Zillow opened like a reflex. "See," she said, turning the screen so the brightness lit the sauce between us. "A white house in Maple Glen, 4 beds, 2 baths, sun caught on the flagstone walk." "This is the light I'm talking about," she said, tapping the photo with her cornbread hand. "Mom's lavender would go right here. Dad's recliner there." She pinched to zoom, rearranged an imaginary recliner, nodded to herself. 2 more links buzzed in. Her alerts were set to loud. "I keep an eye on the market," she added, like this was any other hobby. "MLS moves slow, Zillow's faster." Between bites, as if we were discussing football or weather, she asked, "What's your credit score?" "Ballpark." "My credit score," I repeated. "I just need to know if you'll be punished on points," she said cheerfully, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. "Those should go to quartz." I took a long sip of tea. "This would happen when?" I asked. "Before the proposal," she said like of course. "Pre-approval in 2 weeks, tours next month, closing in 90 days. Housewarming before Halloween. We can announce the engagement at the party. My uncle does banners." "Announce," I echoed. She nodded, the way people nod when the plan has always been the plan, and they're simply catching you up to speed. I tried to find humor. "What about what we'd want?" "Our place." "Oh, we'll get to us," she said, waving the fork like a gavel. "But love is legacy. The first legacy is gratitude." She had a rhythm now, the cadence of someone who has pitched this before and found the phrases that make it smooth. "Conventional 30-year is fine. 20% down. We'll cover closing. I'm not a monster." She smiled like she'd offered me a coupon. "Do you have savings?" I asked gently. "Or is this entirely on me?" "On us," she corrected. "I bring vision. You bring capacity." She brightened. "My cousin's fiancée bought her parents a condo. They're thriving. It's a love language." Pickles snapped between her teeth like punctuation. She returned to the listing photos and, with the solemnity of a notary, opened a little PDF she'd mocked up. The top line read, "Buyer, you." She'd pre-filled my name from our messages, rounded out with my last initial like a monogram on a towel. Specs were copied from Zillow. Under special terms she'd typed, "House must be purchased prior to proposal," in a font that looked like it had paid off a student loan. Ray appeared again with burnt ends, those caramel-crusted cathedral edges, and set them down with a murmur. "On the house." He met my eyes. The nod again, deeper this time. Sustain yourself. Hoa? I asked weakly, grasping at normalcy. No monsters, she said. We're not paying to be told what color to paint a mailbox. Also, no stucco. Stucco is sadness. We both laughed, hers genuine, mine a reflex. She asked about my salary, whether I was a 7-handle score, how I felt about cul-de-sacs. She said boundaries, like a concession when she described choosing a place close to them, not us. She called the garage Dad's kingdom. She called the kitchen Mom's studio, and the house our promise. The language had momentum, and I realized I was the only break in the room. What if we don't work out? I asked. It felt like bringing math to a fireworks show. She shrugged without malice. Then my parents have a house, and you're the kind of man who honors family. Everybody wins. Except me, I said, trying to keep it light and failing. Her face softened a half-inch. You're thinking small, she said. Money returns. Home is forever. We boxed leftovers. She hugged me like we'd agreed on a price. Out in the lot, the night smelled like hickory and late summer. I drove home with the windows down, windows up, windows down again, all the while trying to find the exit ramp off a highway she'd already merged me onto. At 7:02 a.m., my phone buzzed. A Maple Glen listing. Then another. Then a third with a pool. Morning. This one has a mudroom. She wrote, What's your FICO, B2W? Need to get the ball rolling. A minute later, pre-approval guy I like is named Vince. He's creative with numbers. We'll be fine. 2 minutes after that, no stucco. I stared at the screen until the house photos blurred into a quilt of white shutters and invented futures. Then I typed, I'm not comfortable with your requirement. It's not for me. I hit send and sat there, listening to the apartment settle around me, the quiet proud in a way I hadn't noticed before. Her reply arrived quickly, polite and final, totally fine. I don't negotiate with math. Good luck. At lunch I went back to Smoke Ring for a sandwich. Ray saw me and didn't say a word, just loaded an extra burnt end onto the bun like a benediction. I paid, took my tray to the window, and looked at the street. No house, no banners, no invented mudroom. Just a sandwich I chose and a future that, for the moment, fit exactly inside my own front door. I suggested paintball because I didn't want another first date under fairy lights with 2 cocktails and a polite exit. Something fun, I'd texted. A story. Harper replied with a thumbs up and a skull, which I took as enthusiasm. Blackjack woods looked exactly like the internet promised. Pallets leaned into crooked walls, cable spools for cover, a plywood castle that had definitely outlived 3 safety inspections. The ref, Tasha, ran us through rules while a dozen strangers clicked hoppers shut. Masks on at all times. 10-foot surrender rule. 1 hit, hand up, you're out. Don't be weird. Her whistle said she'd ended both fights and middle school dances. Harper arrived in a black hoodie and a red bandana, chipped nail polish already smudged with paint. Up close, she was all angles and a smile that overshot its target. I'm terrible at this, she said, then racked the rented marker like she was checking the soul of it. So don't be mad when I accidentally carry us. Game 1 started with a horn that hit like adrenaline. We sprinted for cover and learned immediately that paintballs sound like angry bees when they miss your ear by an inch. I tried to be brave, peek, pop, duck, while Harper moved low and smooth, counting beats like she could see the math. When a ball popped on her sleeve, she didn't flinch. She rolled to the next pallet, exhaled 3 shots, and folded a guy behind a spool. He laughed out as he lifted his hand, happy to be the story. Okay, Harper, I shouted, giddy. It felt like we were on the same team, and the world was simple. She got warned 2 minutes later for lighting someone up inside 10 feet. Surrender him next time, Tasha called, whistle sharp. Harper didn't argue. She just nodded once, the nod of a person who files things under noted, but not agreed. I took my hit shortly after, thigh wet slap. Out. Hand up, relieved to discover dignity comes in small, rule-following portions. Harper kept hunting, the castle getting closer. I watched her from the safe side of the netting while the welt on my leg decided who it wanted to be. She wasn't reckless. She was decisive. Like the shot was a sentence she'd already finished writing. Between rounds we reloaded at the staging benches. She didn't take her mask off, just lifted it for air and let it rest on her head like a crown. You okay? She asked, nodding at my leg. Fine, I said. You're good at this. I'm bad at missing, she said, and laughed without humor. Game 2, we spawned on the far side. I told myself to be bolder. I popped up at a center spool to throw blind cover and heard paint hit wood, thup-thup, an inch from my knuckles. I ducked, heart doing percussion. When I rose again to check, Harper came slicing around a pallet at a sprint, marker already up, and stitched me twice, collarbone and just under the edge of my mask, so hard the sky pixelated. I dropped to a knee with a stupid noise in my throat. Out! I managed. Tasha's whistle went nuclear. Hold. 10-foot rule. Masks on. Everything paused in a ragged freeze frame. I pressed a hand to the burning place on my neck. It felt like a hot coin. Harper's barrel lowered slowly. Behind her lens, something flared and went still. Back at the benches, a staffer cracked an ice pack for me. It hissed like a soda. The welt was ugly in a way that would become impressive later. I'm fine, I said reflexively, because men say that near pain and women who caused it. Harper set her marker down like it was sleeping. When she finally took off her mask, the gloss in her eyes had hardened to glass. He used to bring me here, she said to the middle distance. My ex said I was too soft. Shot me in the back when I was walking out. Pain in my hair, up my shirt. Laughed and called it training. I thought we were still talking about paintball. We weren't. I didn't mean to hit you that close, she added, voice flat. I just don't miss anymore. It happens, I said uselessly. Also not all. Save it, she said, not unkind, which somehow hurt more. Men enjoy watching you flinch. You draw a line, and they paint a target there. That's not all men. I tried again, a cliché I hated even as it left my mouth. I only needed one to teach me, she said. Now I grade on a curve. She cradled her mask a second longer, then stood. I'm gonna head out. Thanks for the game. No hard feelings, I said, needing it to be true. That's your specialty, she said, and the smile finally landed where she aimed it, past me. We finished a last round without her. I hid smarter. The sky unpixelated. On the drive home the ice pack melted on my collarbone, and I rehearsed better things I could have said. The welt faded in time. The sentence didn't. I'm bad at missing. Somewhere between cute story and cautionary tale, a promise had bent into a rule. I still don't know how to tell the difference fast enough. The lounge was the sort of low-lit cave where the candles looked nervous. A DJ whispered vinyl in the corner, and the doorman, Iggy's silver hair, coat too thin for the weather, held the door like a priest with a secret. I told him I was meeting Olivia. He smiled without teeth. Third this week, he said, not unkindly, and waved me in. Olivia had the best booth, the one half hidden by a velvet curtain so conversations could pretend to be private. She wore a men's blazer and lip balm instead of lipstick, the kind of choice that reads as confidence. You're cute, she said, as if stamping a form. Let's skip the preamble. We got drinks, mine something brown and steady, hers a martini that kept its composure. She leaned back and crossed her legs the way a judge does when they've already decided. I don't do monogamy, she said, calm as a weather report. For me. I waited. But I expect exclusivity, she added, pointing the olive stick at my chest like a baton. From you. Balance. Outside, on the patio, she lit a cigarette, technically against the rules, spiritually on brand. Smoke made halos of the heat lamps. I reached for a cocktail napkin and a pen that had been abandoned in the ashtray. If I couldn't steer the night, I could at least take notes. Pros. She's direct. No guesswork. Chemistry, not imaginary. Laugh makes me feel like I've told a secret worth hearing. Cons. One way open. Calls it balance. Iggy's third this week. Olivia exhaled and began listing rules, the way people order in a drive-thru when they've rehearsed in the car. 2 nights a week with me max. I burn out otherwise. No sleepovers. I like my bed to reset. You don't ask where I am, I don't lie. You don't follow my close friends. You don't need context. If you use the word label, we're done. Wait, I said. I can't ask where you are? She smiled. You can, but that's a breakup trigger. Men who need clarity drain my battery. I added to the list. Cons can't. Breakup triggers include asking questions. Clarity drains my battery. She took another pull on the cigarette, admired the ember as if she'd made fire for the first time. I keep a rotation, she went on. Not because I'm greedy. Because I'm honest. Variety keeps me present. You meanwhile give me fidelity. It grounds me. Does your rotation know it's a rotation? I asked. They know I'm busy, she said. Same thing. Iggy cracked the patio door and gave us a weather update that wasn't one. Keep the smoke low, he said to her. To me, she's got a script. He tapped the doorframe twice and drifted back inside. Olivia finished her martini, eyed the empty booth like it had failed a test, and pinned me with a look. Say yes or don't. It's efficient. I glanced at the napkin. Pros. Direct. Chemistry. Good laugh. Cons. One-way rules. Questions equals exit. Rotation. Iggy's face when he said third. She slid the ash into the tray like a period. Well, I folded the napkin and tucked it into my wallet like a passport I didn't want stamped. You're electric, I said, truth first. And I like one channel. She shrugged, no anger, just physics. Wrong format, she said. You do great as deep. What's deep? I asked. A roll, she said, already standing. Someone will love it. She kissed the air expertly and moved toward the door. Iggy held it open, eyes crinkling. Night, he said. When she was gone, he glanced at my pocket. Pros and cons. Mostly cons, I said. He nodded like a man who'd seen an ocean try to drown a lot of boats. Then you already know. I walked home with the napkin a soft square against my ribs, the city doing its soft midnight breathing, and for once the only balance I wanted was the kind you get when 2 feet agree on the same direction. Vermilion and vine glowed like banked coals, brick walls, 2 top tables, jazz so soft it felt like breath. The sommelier, a woman named Alba who moved like a tide coming in, led me to a candlelit corner and handed me a list that read more like a family tree than a menu. I was early. I always am when I'm trying to make a good impression. Chloe arrived exactly on the minute, a slim portfolio tucked under one arm, blazer the color of bone. She shook my hand with a firm, efficient squeeze and sat like a decision had already been made. Nice to finally meet, she said, then checked her watch in a way that wasn't rude so much as informative. I block 30 minutes for screenings, an hour if I see potential. Screenings? I said. She smiled like a coach delivering a difficult note. It keeps things clear. Alba drifted back with a modest bottle and a quiet story. Hillside vines, wind the grapes had to wrestle with. Beautiful Pinot Noir, she told us. Silky bright. Honest. What's the next tier up? Chloe asked, not unkindly. For optics. Alba's smile thinned a millimeter. She returned with a taller bottle whose name performed on a receipt. Chloe nodded before tasting. That's better. We traded origin stories. I told her I'd build exhibits at the Children's Museum, how we hooked up a big green button so paper planets would orbit and kids would gasp like they'd caught the moon in their hands. Creative, she said, tapping something into her phone. But where do you see yourself heading, placement-wise? Placement? I asked. In terms of lanes, she said. Doctors, lawyers, finance. Engineers if they're presentable. Consultants if their decks are clean. She took her first sip and seemed to approve more of the label than the liquid. Rooms respect titles, she added. It saves time at galas. Which rooms? I said, genuinely curious. Donor rooms. Holiday rooms. Rooms where introductions do heavy lifting. The way she said it made the rooms feel like whether you had to plan around. Alba checked on us, and I asked if a carafe of the village wine might be nice after. It's lovely, she said, hopeful. And Kinder on the... We'll continue with this, Chloe said, fingers light on the expensive bottle's neck. Alba nodded. Her eyes met mine for a heartbeat and said, quietly, understood. Could I see your LinkedIn? Chloe asked, as if requesting a menu. I thought she meant later. She meant now. I handed over my phone. She scanned my headline, scrolled past the tiny victories that feel big to me. Grant 1, exhibit repaired, the photo of a thank you poster with 4 uneven stars, and stopped at a line about volunteering to teach girls how to wire flashlights. Adorable, she said. What's your trajectory? She pronounced it like a capital T. I want my work to feel useful. Maybe I'll lead the shop one day, but I don't know. I like being the guy who makes the planet spin. She gave the kind of nod you give a friendly dog that can't ride in the car. We'd have to align signals, she said. Her gaze tracked in order my shirt good, shoes fine, watch unbranded. Her mouth made a small private O. It's not about money. It's about communicating. Communicating what? Velocity, she said. Network density. That I make good placements. The jazz ticked on like a clock with good manners. Alba brought a dessert menu shaped like a secret and murmured, "The lemon tart is perfect tonight." Chloe didn't look. "We won't be staying," she said, handing my phone back like a resume with notes in the margins. On the sidewalk, the night had that cured wood smell city evenings sometimes get. Chloe offered her hand and a professional smile. Great meeting, she said. If you pivot, title, industry, circle back. I keep a short list for promising candidates. Candidates, I repeated. Placements, she corrected, already tapping her calendar. I walked toward the bodega that sells basil in cups and bread that never quite fits the bag. Through the window I could see Alba polishing glasses, her reflection doubled in the bar mirror the way two lives sometimes overlap without touching. I thought about the bottle we didn't order, the one with the quiet story and the honest price. I thought about rooms that need introductions and rooms where a kid's laugh lifts the ceiling. Somewhere behind me, a portfolio clicked shut. In front of me, the doorbell over the bodega chimed, thin and hopeful, and I went in to buy basil I didn't need, just to stand under a light that made no demands and told the truth about color. Rocket and buns smelled like hot oil and sugar buns, the kind of sweetness that sticks to your hair. The burger line split the room in half. Beyond it the arcade flashed and clattered, skee-ball rattling, pinball ringing, Galaga whistling like a tea kettle. Jason waved me over to a window booth. Hoodie, sneakers, a smile he'd practiced enough to believe. We ordered 2 burgers, a pile of onion rings, shakes thick enough to stand a spoon in. For 20 minutes we did the easy lap, road trip songs, fry theology, the time I reversed into a trash can and pretended it was choreography. I let my shoulders drop. It felt like a date where nothing weird happens. If I'd been paying better attention, I would have noticed how often his eyes pinged the corner banquette. For guys sat there, pints, empty baskets, the kind of loud that auditions for charming. When I wiped ketchup off my wrist, they hooped, perfectly timed, like a studio audience cued to laugh. Jason didn't look at them. He looked past me toward the framed Galaga poster on the wall. That's when I saw it in the glass, a tiny red dot pulsing, rec, aimed from a phone half hidden behind a beer bottle at the corner table. I tested the angle. I lifted my shake. Baseball cap elbowed his friend. I leaned toward Jason. The dot winked again. Do you know them? I asked, keeping my tone casual, so the truth might come out on its own. He hesitated just enough to answer. Buddies, he said, then exhaled like a man tired of holding a punchline. Don't be mad. I lost a bet. He leaned closer, lowering his voice as if intimacy could turn this into a shared secret. They dared me to actually go on an app date and not bail. They're grabbing proof for the group chat. Clips. It's dumb. That's not proof, I said. That's a recording. It's harmless, he said, palms up, the universal sign for trust me. I'm actually having fun. You're cool. They already said you tested well. Tested, I repeated flat. An arcade attendant drifted past our booth, a woman with a roll of tickets on her belt, and the posture of someone who's seen this movie before and still believes in alternate endings. June, her name tag read. She clocked the corner table, clocked Jason's too bright smile, clocked my face. You good? She asked, light as lint. We were about to play skee-ball, I said. Great game, she said, eyes cutting to the Galaga glass and back. Let's get you a lane. The arcade carpet was a neon fever dream. I fed quarters, rolled the first ball, watched it sink into the 10 like it owed me money. When I looked left, baseball cap had migrated to a nearby machine, pretending to inspect the coin slot while he angled his phone. The red dot found me again in the curve of the score glass. June stepped directly into the shot and began wiping the skee-ball housing with a rag, unhurried as a tide. No filming in the arcade, she told the general air. It spooks the games. Scores tank. She didn't look at him when she said it. She looked at me, then at the exit, quietly mapping the routes. The phone dipped. The dot vanished. Jason rolled a ball, missed everything, and tried to turn it into a shaggy dog story. Don't be mad, he said over the clatter. It's a dumb dare, but the night doesn't have to be. It was dumb, I said. The night is done. Back in the dining room, as soon as I picked up my purse, the corner hooped like a bracket had hit. One slapped the table. Another raised his phone like a trophy. Confirmation. I had just completed their assignment by existing in motion. June was already moving. Phone down, she told them, calm and absolute. We don't do that here. At the bar, Marco lifted his chin at me. You okay? I nodded and walked into clean air. Jason followed onto the sidewalk, hands out like he was directing traffic. You're overreacting, he said. It's not like it goes anywhere. It's just a group chat thing. Right? I said. A museum, where you mount people you don't understand and ask your friends to applaud. He tried one more angle. We clicked though. You tested well. I'm not a quiz, I said and kept walking. 10 minutes later my phone buzzed. My friends can be idiots. You're cool though. Rain check? I didn't reply. I sent Rocket and Buns a thank you for June instead. The business account answered before I reached the next block. We got your back. Free round when you want to play for real. I believed them. Some places post rules on a wall. The better places hire people willing to stand exactly where a camera wants to look and refuse to move. The restaurant was nothing fancy, just a mid-priced Italian place where the booths had a permanent smell of garlic and wood polish, and the candles were electric but still tried their best. I was halfway through a plate of rigatoni when the alarm on my phone buzzed softly in my pocket. 7 o'clock. I pulled out the small orange pillbox from my bag, like I'd done hundreds of times before, and tipped 2 white tablets into my hand. Epilepsy meds, I explained lightly, because it's easier to say it before anyone asks. Keeps things calm upstairs. Across from me, Nate froze. At first I thought he hadn't heard, but then he frowned, really frowned, like I'd just lit a cigarette in a nursery. You don't actually take those, do you? He asked. I laughed, small and awkward. Yeah, every day. Twice. Doctor's orders. His face settled into something grim. No, those are poison. Big pharma poison. You don't need pills, you need discipline. Sunlight. Clean food. Not this crap. He gestured at the rigatoni like it was a crime scene. I tried to keep it polite. Trust me, I need them. I've been on meds since I was 13. They keep me from seizing. But he leaned forward, eyes flashing like he was about to save me. That's exactly what they want you to think. They make you dependent so you never fight your own battles. Hand them to me. He held out his palm. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Seriously, he said. Give them. You don't need chemicals in your body. I'll throw them out for you. My hand tightened around the pills, so hard they left crescents in my skin. Nate, no. He reached across the table, quick and sudden, and tried to grab my wrist. Not rough, not violent exactly, but enough that the restaurant around us tilted sideways. A couple at the next booth stopped chewing. Stop! I yanked my hand back. These aren't vitamins, Nate. If I don't take them, I could end up on the floor. You've been lied to, he said, voice rising louder now. That's what seizures are, your body detoxing. You have to let it happen. You have to let yourself heal. I stared at him. In that moment, he wasn't a man on a date. He was a zealot in a cheap shirt, and he was trying to take away the one thing standing between me and a hospital bed. The pills shook in my fist. My heart shook worse. I stood. My chair scraped back hard enough that the couple in the next booth flinched. I'm not doing this. My voice cracked, but it carried. Nate started to protest, something about me thanking him later. But I was already moving. Pillbox shoved deep in my bag, coat half on, half dragging. I paid the check at the host's stand with fingers that couldn't stop trembling. Outside, the night air hit me like glass. Cold, sharp, too thin. I swallowed the tablets with a gulp of water from the bottle I always carry, my hands still shaking so bad the cap rolled under a parked car. I stood there until the buzzing in my chest slowed down, until my brain believed me again. Then I walked home alone, each step pounding with one thought. How easy it is for someone to smile at you across pasta, and how quickly that smile can turn into a hand reaching for the thing that keeps you alive. I won't forget that, and I don't think I'll sit across from a stranger with my pillbox in sight again.